Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, joined on this Friday afternoon by the one and only Jeremy Hokius Greco. Jeremy, it feels like a good thing we delayed recording this episode until after the Yankees series
No, I think I would have rather recorded before that disaster.
because then we could have had some hope. Like
Yeah.
maybe they could pull this out. Yeah, no, it's not
Jacob,
how it went.
why is it they're one game under 500? I think they're 2.5 back of a playoff spot. Why does it feel like the season is over? I guess it's because every time they get down by one run, the game is over. So
Yeah.
now that they're not specifically in playoff position, the season's over.
They're pretty bad at coming back in games. So it's only fair to say they're pretty bad at coming
They
back in
came
the
back in that
standings.
Cardinals game, and it was like, no, they can do it. Jack
Oh,
Caglione's here. Everything's fixed. It is not.
it is not in fact fixed, and everything is not okay with the Kansas City Royals. But if you want some more in-depth dives on some specific aspects of the Royals struggles, make sure you go check out royalsreview.com. You can also follow Royals Review on social media, so Facebook, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Go find Royals Review. So coming up on today's episode, of course, we have to talk about the Pinstripes coming to Kauffman Stadium, just manhandling the Kansas City Royals. You will preview the Athletics series coming up. And then plus we're going to be talking about a couple of specific players to include Cole Ragans, Bobby Witt Jr., and Nick Loftin. All right, Jeremy. So let's go ahead and start off with this Yankees series. So this is, it's okay to have two sweeps for like any team at this point in the year. It's June 13th, only being swept two times. Like that's pretty good for a Royal squad, but it sucks that it's happened twice against the New York Yankees, and it happened in very decisive fashion in Kauffman Stadium. Like I think you summed up what Royals fans are feeling right now in that it feels like this is over. Like it feels like the postseason is so far away. It feels like this team is no better than it was last October. Like how are you feeling about the squad right now?
I'm not feeling good. It's funny because I will feel awful about this team. And I will get into this room where we can talk about this
Yeah,
recording studio, and I will feel awful about this team. And then you will push the record button and I'll be like, "Well,"
maybe
and
this,
I
maybe
don't
that.
intentionally do that, but there's something magical that happens when you start recording me where I feel like I can't say that things are as awful as they felt 10 minutes ago.
Fair.
Because I guess it's because feel like I have to stop reacting to everything quite so emotionally, and I
Mhm.
have to be a little bit more like, well, what do the numbers say?
I think right now this is a good time to look at feelings. And it's feelings aren't going to drive the ultimate result of of a Major League Baseball game, series, or season, right? Like that's why we look at the numbers so much.
Right.
And that's why it is safer to say, okay, well, let's trust the process. What have they done in all the games leading up to this one? What have they done in the 68 games leading up to this one before we react to it? But I think that's a part of the frustration is like that series finale felt like the time that the Royals were going to avoid the sweep, right? Will Warren, he's had great moments, but he hasn't been that sharp of a starting pitcher. Seth Lugo went out there and had a very good rebound start that's unfortunately going to be overlooked. And for lack of better terms, the Yankees kind of put in their B squad for a
Yeah.
lot of guys in the lineup.
Yeah, my question before that game was are the Yankees, are they throwing this game or are they just rubbing it in how much better than they are than the Royals? And I sure feels like B, especially
Yeah,
after the Royals did lose.
exactly. And it's frustrating. So I do want to talk about the feelings on this episode because that's where a lot of Royals fans are at, and I can't blame them. Like we can point to some of these encouraging numbers. I forget who had the piece up on royalsreview.com about Jack's slow start, but some of
I
the
think it was
good
Matt
numbers.
Chabot.
Yeah, I think it was Matt. Like he had that piece, and it's good to like you want to frame it in a small sample size. Cool. You look for the positives. You say, yeah, this could be better, but it might be. Right now, we're almost at game 7 of the MLB season. We are almost at the halfway mark. of the 162 game season. And this is where the Royals are at. And it's frustrating.
I also have to say, Jacob, and I know that this is the ballad of the losers, but the umpires really screwed the Royals the last 2 games.
Did.
Chris Bubich struck out Jazz Chisholm by all measures.
Yeah.
And if that is a strikeout instead of a walk, as it became, I think, 2 pitches later, that changes the whole complexion of the inning. The Yankees probably, I would guess, even if things didn't go exactly if the things went exactly as they did, then the Royals don't give up any runs in that inning. And if they're slightly different, the Royals probably only give up 1 run in that inning, because I feel like a big part of the reason Chris Bubich struggled in that inning was because he actually had at least 2, it might have been 3 pitches that inning that were strikes that were called balls. And well, you could say, well, he should still keep throwing strikes and he shouldn't throw them right down the middle and he shouldn't throw it way outside the zone. But where the heck is he supposed to throw it if he can't throw it to the edges and still well inside the strike zone and get a called strike? Where is he supposed to throw it?
It's that there's only one place to put it. And unfortunately, that's over the heart of the plate, because that's the only spot you couldn't get the call.
And then last night, Jack Caglione got rung up on a pitch. It was a couple inches. Like, he did everything we could have, and it's going to show up as this is why the box score is not always, especially in small sample sizes, is not always representative. Is he did everything we could have asked him to do. He started really taking some pitches yesterday. He had 3 different full counts, and he walked. He took ball 4, and the umpire called him out. And Nick Loftin immediately followed with a triple that would have scored the go-ahead run at that point, and that changes the entire complexion of that game.
It does. It really does.
And the other thing about the Chris Bubich thing also is not only would it have been 4 or 5 fewer runs given up in that inning, but it would have been 25 or 30 pitches fewer thrown, which is, that's 2 innings of pitching that Chris Bubich couldn't give us.
Yeah, because of that one instance that could have been avoided by the ABS challenge system or just a better umpire behind home plate. And it does, I think you put it well when you said the loser's ballot. It sounds like that when you're complaining about the umpires. But I do want to say it felt more impactful in a 1-0 loss, which the Royals have had, I think, 4 of this year by my count, which is crazy because there's only been 29 in all of Major League Baseball. And the Royals have been in 4 of those 1-0 games. But like yesterday, the umpire scorecard says that 0.56 runs favored the Yankees in a 1-0
I was talking
game
to Lesky about this.
Yeah.
And he made a point that I found very interesting, which was that the way that the ump scorecards calculates that stuff is only on the run differential for that specific pitch. It doesn't account any of the context around it. So what comes in the next at bat, what comes in the next, that doesn't count. It's like, because this was a ball instead of a strike, it added this much of a run expectancy to the Yankees. So I think it probably undersells how much the differential is really. So I just want to make that point.
And I put this out on Twitter at Royal Rundown Pod. The Yankees are one of the most favorable teams according to umpire scorecards when it comes to balls and strikes going their way.
And they're also, this is the other thing that it doesn't account for, is they're also one of the better teams in baseball where they take advantage of those opportunities. People talk about, and this is where we can talk about the Chiefs a little bit. People talk about the Chiefs get the calls. Well, no, the Chiefs don't get the calls, but everybody gets bad calls. But when the Chiefs get a bad call, they take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And when the Yankees get a bad call in their favor, they take advantage of it. When the Royals get a bad call in their favor, they don't. There were a couple, it's not like the umpires didn't call any pitches that were wrong in the favor of the Royals. They did. There were balls called strikes and vice versa that helped the Royals in these games. The Royals never took advantage of them. And so what you can say is, well, the umpire, and maybe this is going to change the way I look at the Chiefs games, is you could say, well, the umpires should be, they're not affecting the game that much because they make bad calls all the way around. And that's true. But when your team is that much better, when your team is worse than the other team, you need the umpires to make all the right calls so that the other team doesn't get to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. But all in all, we can look at this context, we can look at the details, things like that. It's chalked up as the Royals start off a homestand with a series sweep against the New York Yankees. And this was the context that I was looking at this was another barometer moment for how far the Royals have progressed or regressed since the ALDS loss last year. I know we were all still looking at it's early in the season. We were looking at that lens when they went to Yankee Stadium and
And
got
they
swept.
went on a massive hot streak right after that too, so we didn't have a lot of time to dwell on it.
Right. Right now I am dwelling. I am
Well,
dwelling
sure,
on this.
sure. We'll see how we feel on Sunday afternoon, but
Yeah. And because let's say they go out there and sweep the Athletics, I think a lot of Royals fans are going to be like, okay, everything's fine. Because you look at it, it's a 3-3 homestand at that point, and you
they're
feel
back
like,
over 500.
right,
Might be
exactly.
even back in playoff position depending on what the teams ahead of them do.
Yeah.
That's the situation that they're in right now. Is we're living, and this is the situation they were in last year. This is the situation they were in 2014. This is the situation they were in 2013. The only time I've been a Royals fan when they haven't been in this situation is 2015, when they were just so much better than everybody else. It did not matter. And every other year than the ones I've just mentioned, where they were so much worse than everyone else, it just did not matter. And so we're living and dying with every win and loss because they're right there on the edge, and every loss feels that much more painful, and every win feels that much more meaningful.
Yeah.
If they got swept by the Yankees in 2022, we'd be like, yeah, they were a bad team. Doesn't really matter. You know, we're just looking for, can some guys show us some stuff for next season.
Yeah.
You know, and if they got swept by the Yankees in 2015, there would be some doomsayers, but there would be a lot of people saying, well, they're still 20 games over 500, best record in the league. It's hard to get too upset, but right now it's like, come on.
And I think it's not good company the Royals are in right now, because this is only the third time in franchise history that the Yankees have swept the Royals in the season series. And the other two squads were 2001 and 1998. Like that's not good company to be
Gosh, I
in.
remember 1998.
Was that
Is that
really that bad of a team?
it was not an awful team. It was a team that could not pitch.
Gotcha.
And Jermaine Dye and Johnny Damon and Mike Sweeney hadn't quite found their way yet. But they absolutely, Jose Rosado, I think, was the ace of that staff. And that was the
Oof.
only year he was any good.
Man.
But no, they had Tim Belcher, and they might have still had Kevin Napier at that point. So I might be wrong, but it was a team. It had no bullpen. That's for dang sure. It had no bullpen. But I remember the Yankees games because I remember that I was very still much on the payroll disparity stuff. And the Yankees they could buy whoever. The Royals don't have any money, and the Royals didn't have any money then because they didn't have an owner.
Yeah.
And so I was so furious about it. I wanted the Royals to beat the Yankees more than anything. And now I don't have a hatred for other teams in that same way. Watching the Yankees beat the Royals now is very different for me. I still get upset every time the Royals lose, but not because it's the Yankees.
Right.
Just because I want them to win. I want them to play in the playoffs, please.
Yes. Some other important numbers I want to throw your way, Jeremy. So you've gotten on to me for being the guy that I think more fans should be going out to Kauffman Stadium for games and things like that. Well,
I mean, you're allowed to think that. I just don't share it.
Yeah. But it's hard to advocate if I'm telling a buddy to come watch a Royals game when the Royals are 3-11 in their last 14 home games. That is bad.
Yeah.
That is really, really, and they've only scored 27 runs. They're averaging less than 2 runs a game. It's bad.
Hey, time to send Jack Caglione back to Omaha. That'll fix the offense if we send Jack back, right?
I think so.
Bobby Witt Jr. needs to be demoted to fix this offense, Jacob.
He does have 3 options left. I'm just saying. Okay, could you imagine Bobby against AAA pitching?
If Bobby Witt Jr. Well, I didn't. That Omaha fans, you better go watch that. If you're an Omaha fan, that'll be you thought watching Jack was fun? Watch an experienced Bobby Witt Jr. Okay, that would be a revelation. But also, can you imagine how badly things would have to go for the Royals to go, yeah, we gave you hundreds of millions of dollars and we've made you the face of the franchise, but you got to go to Omaha to figure yourself out, buddy.
Well, speaking of the face of the franchise, it feels a little unfair to talk about him in this lens, but Bobby's slumping.
He's as I posted on Blue Sky last night, he's not even just Bobby slumping anymore. He's slumping now. It's getting to be a problem because if you go back to that last Giants game when Salvi finally broke out of his homer slump, Jonathan India is hitting. Michael Garcia he's hitting all year, but he's hitting since then. Vinny Pasquantino is hitting. He was just the AL player of the week because he hit so much, and he's raised his batting average over 100 points.
Yeah.
Like, he's just ridiculous out there right now. His numbers are good somehow. After being so awful for so long, he's been so hot that his overall numbers are good. Salvador Perez still striking out too much, still hitting into too many double plays, but his overall numbers are fine. They're above average. He's like a 120 WRC plus since then. Bobby Witt Jr. is a 70 or 80 right now. Which is better than Rave, it's better than Melendez, it's better than Renfroe, but it's not good enough, especially not in that 2 slot.
Yeah. And when you have a guy who's going to see more plate appearances than the average bear, that's what's going to happen. And yeah,
still, the defense is still there.
Yes, defense is
Superman
still
out there now.
Yeah, he's been making some incredible plays out there in the field. But yeah, I didn't believe the numbers were that bad until you look at that specific frame, because since that Giant series, it's a 70 WRC plus on the button. He's not getting in that span. He's not getting on base. He's not hitting for extra bases. And
he's still getting singles, but that's it.
Yeah.
I think he's got a couple home runs.
He has 3 home runs in that. So like
you would live with if he was still hitting the doubles and triples, but he's not.
Right. And again, this is what he just came off of a 1, 2.
And you'd want him, it's been a month, you'd want him to probably hit more than 3 home runs too.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And he had what is this? I think this is an 8-game hitting streak that ended in the second game against the Yankees.
They were all like 1-hit games and mostly singles.
Yeah. That's what I'm seeing. He hasn't had get this. So he had a home run against the White Sox, right? Outside of that, he hasn't had an extra base hit since June.
Now, if we go back to last year, Bobby has no stretches like that. Not even one.
No.
He was hitting the cover off the ball. I think he had a slow stretch where he was like a 110 WRC plus or something like that.
Yeah. And so here's where I want to frame this at, because I'm sure there are some people out there listening that might have turned this off once we started criticizing Bobby Witt Jr. and be like, oh, well, he's not part of the problem, and there are these guys doing worse. Yeah, I'm not saying he's doing the worst on the team, but the fact of the matter is he is the face of this franchise. He's the guy who's on all the posters for the Royals. He's on all the highlight reels for the Royals. He is the guy who's still in that AL MVP conversation because of, frankly, what he's doing in the field.
The conversation isn't much of a conversation, though,
right now,
to be fair.
Right now, it's not.
I mean, Aaron Judge, he's the guy. There's just no argument.
No argument right now. But Bobby's not doing his part into making it a conversation.
The thing is that last year, and this is why I differentiate between slumping and Bobby slumping, is that last year Bobby Witt Jr. was so good he could put the team on his back and carry it, which is something you're not supposed to be able to do as a baseball player. You're not supposed to be able to carry it all by yourself, and he kind of did. And this year he's been fine. He's been Bobby slumping. He's been an above average hitter, but not superstar. And now, over the last month or so, he's a below average hitter. Like, it's a legitimate slump.
It is.
And it's really, when the team relied on him to be a superstar, for him to be in a real slump is an absolute killer. We talk all the time about, we don't need to replace Hunter Renfroe with Juan Soto. You need to replace Hunter Renfroe with a Taylor Ward or somebody, a little above average or above average. Well, when you drop Bobby Witt Jr. from superstar to below average to Hunter Renfroe levels, it's the same thing, but in reverse. Right. Well, we were expecting this kind of production, and we're getting significantly worse production. If Hunter Renfroe was hitting at a 70 WRC plus, he'd still be on the team.
Yeah. So let's look at it in this framework. So I know you brought up the Giants series because that's felt like it could have been a turning point. Yeah.
They got Salvi finally hit a home run. They got a lot of runs against a really good starting pitcher. And it's a point where you can turn and look and say, hey, the offense hasn't been atrocious overall since then as they were before then.
So what I went back and looked at is they had that stretch where they won like 18 games, or they won 16 games in 18 games. It was from April 20th to May 9th is when they did that. So I went back like, okay, what has Bobby done since May 9th? And it doesn't help his case at all. It's a 76 WRC plus. The OPS, cool. He has a little bit more power in this window. He has some more extra base hits, but we're not, we're not buying Bobby Witt Jr. jerseys at the team store for a 684 OPS. Like
No,
that's just not what we're doing here.
that's Kyle Isbell territory.
Yeah,
And people
exactly.
want him off the team.
Still, for some reason. But since that 16-2 stretch, the Royals are 10-19 in their last 29 games. Like, I'm not saying Bobby's the only reason that's happened, but not helping the team too
I
much
guess,
at the plate.
and here's where I try to find a silver lining, as I so
Okay.
often do when we're on the podcast. The good news is, I don't think any reasonable person thinks this is Bobby Witt Jr. from now on.
No.
I think we're more likely to see superstar Bobby Witt Jr. than we are to see this version of Bobby Witt Jr. at any given time, which means that he could break out of this slump at any moment. He could break out of this slump, and when he does, when, not if, I think, when he does, the team should have the offensive firepower to win some games again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, like I said, everybody around him is hitting.
Yes, that they are. And it's just not a spot that I thought we would be at, but here we are. But one guy who is doing his best to help out the lineup is Nick Loftin, who
Yeah,
has just been
never
he
been
has been
happier to be more wrong about a guy.
and you know what? I believe I was wrong about him as well, because I thought at best he was going to be a versatile guy that was going to be slightly below average at the plate. That's okay. He can play pretty much anywhere. No,
Yeah,
he has been crazy since
he
returning
needs
on May
he
20th.
needs to be in the starting lineup every day.
I don't see a reason why he shouldn't be.
I love John Rave. It's not happening, not quickly enough. Anyway, Drew Waters. I've criticized Drew Waters kind of the same way I did Nick Loftin. He's falling back down. Nick Loftin could fall back down,
Good.
but until he does, he should be in the lineup every day, kind of like Drew Waters should have been in the lineup every day while he was hitting well, and he
Yeah.
was in the lineup every day. Nick Loftin needs to be there now too.
There is something to be said about riding the hot hand with these guys that are, I don't want to say fringe roster guys, but they're fringe everyday lineup guys. Like, you're not gonna say like, oh well, Bobby, we got to sit you. You haven't had a hit in 3 games. We're gonna start Michael in your spot. No, but like Nick Lofton's red hot right now. A 141 WRC plus since he came back. He's not known for his power, but he had that triple last night. He's got 3 doubles, a home run in 12 games. He's getting on base at a 351 clip, which is just amazing. Lower down the lineup, and frankly, he's those guys that are down in the lineup more. I feel like they have been doing a better job of building a bridge back to the top of the lineup than they were earlier on the season.
I think Kyle Isbell is a perfectly cromulent 9-hole hitter. He'll occasionally bop one out. He'll get on base a little bit more often than you'd think a 9-hole hitter should. No, he's not a good hitter. You don't want to move him up in the lineup, but as a 9-hole hitter, you're like, okay, you can absolutely, especially with the defense he offers.
Yeah,
We gotta respect that defense. It's
we
some
really
really
do.
seriously good defense. And then Nick Loftin and Jack Caglione's gonna figure it out. So if you have if you have all those, you basically have a corner outfield designated hitter spot that you don't have figured out right now. The infield all looks pretty good. I know people still hate Jonathan India because he hasn't gone on a really hot streak, but the numbers have quietly been coming up. And I think, if the Royals start winning, people will start looking at India's numbers and go, oh, it's not as bad as I thought he was. But the Royals aren't winning, and he's the new guy who was brought in to fix the offense, and he never should have been the only guy brought in to fix the offense. And people think, well, he didn't fix the offense, so therefore he sucks. There's a lot of context around that. But yeah, Nick Loftin, if he's your 7-hole guy, especially right now while he's hot, great, do that. And if he stops being hot, then you start rotating him with Waters and Rave until one of them gets hot, and then you ride that hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is worth noting that Jonathan India, since he's moved back to a designated hitter or second base only role, he's gotten better.
He's gotten better defensively at second too. He's made a couple
Yeah.
of snazzy plays the last week or so.
That he has. And he's not a guy who is gonna put one in the outfield corner and go for 3 bases or nothing like that, but he is doing his job as the leadoff man more often than not, it feels like.
And I do want to be clear, I'm not saying India is amazing defensively at second base now, but he's doing his job. When he first moved back to second base, it looked like an absolute disaster. I think you'll agree with me on that. It doesn't look like a disaster anymore, and I think people are still letting that first impression color how they see him there.
Hey, look at this. So since the start of the Cincinnati Red series, they're in Kauffman Stadium, which was May 26th, not a month, but a good amount of games.
Couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's got a 128 WRC plus.
That you take that all every day. What's his OBP?
His OBP is
That's really good. It's not Aaron Judge, but who is? That's really good. He's doing, like you said, he's doing his job.
Yeah.
And he's playing competent second base. He is doing his job.
Yes.
And if the rest of the offense was functioning, no one would have anything bad to say about him.
Right. But because you see him the most, I think he's drawn more criticism than the average bear.
It's really that new guy brought in to fix the problem, and the problem isn't fixed. But he never should have been. He never was intended to be the only guy brought in to fix the problem.
Yeah.
They were supposed to add a power outfield bat to also fix the problem, and they didn't. And in retrospect, it seems like they maybe couldn't.
Yeah.
They would have had to make a trade, and we don't know what the potential trade partners were willing to give up or what they were asking for.
Yeah.
So the free agents aren't working out for the people who did sign them. We were criticizing them. I was certainly criticizing them for not signing Anthony Santander or Jerickson Profar, or Michael Conforto also looks bad now. So there just wasn't an answer out there. Everyone, I don't think I would be criticizing them because I did want them to take a chance. And sometimes when you take a chance, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I'd say, whoops, that didn't work out. That sucks. Well, it looks like they figured out it wasn't going to work out ahead of time, or maybe they just got lucky that it didn't work out. But they were supposed to going back from the rabbit trail to the main point. They were supposed to add at least 2 guys to this lineup, and they only added 1, and they knew that wasn't going to be enough. They were praying that Maikel Garcia and MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe, at least 2 of those 3 would figure it out. One of them did.
Yep.
The other 2 did not.
Nope. The other 2 are not wearing royalty.
So they still need at least 1 more hitter. Jack Caglione is not helping the offense yet. He's not hurting it, because by the time you get to him, everything's already fallen apart.
Yeah.
But I think he will help it, but he's not helping it yet. They need, and honestly, I think it might be time to talk about moving him up in the order, not because he's hit so well, but because for his pitchers to throw hittable pitches to him.
Yeah.
Say, oh, he's in front of Maikel Garcia. If I walk him, Maikel Garcia might hurt me. Or even if you decide righty lefty, it doesn't matter that much. Put him in front of Vinny Pasquantino. If I don't get him, Vinny Pasquantino might get me.
Right.
So then you throw him a hittable pitch and let him start to and Jack Caglione's not doing anything to me yet. He's overmatched. I'll throw him oh no, where did that ball go?
Hey, I do want to talk about Vinny here in a second, but one thing that I was very surprised to see is early on this season, we talked about Salvador Perez, especially the difference between his expected numbers and his actual numbers. We looked at WOBA. So right now, Jack Caglione's WOBA is sitting at 213, which is just straight up not good. It's not great. But his expected WOBA is at 329, which is very good for a guy this early in his career. So
he's still crushing the ball. He's hitting it on the ground a little bit more than you'd like, but he's shown the ability to hit it in the air in every level before now. I'm not sure what's going on, but I have faith that he will figure it out. And he's hitting the ball hard. We saw him yesterday. One of the only criticisms I feel like you could have leveled against him before last night was that he was swinging at almost everything he saw. He wasn't striking out a lot, but he was swinging at everything. Well, As I said, he took 3 full counts last night. He was willing to watch some pitches, and I don't remember what his final line ended up being, but at least one of the strikeouts, if there was only one strikeout, then the strikeout should have been a walk, which completely changes with the small sample, completely changes the way the numbers look there too. So
Yeah, precisely. All right, so Vinny, you brought up that he's been a very dangerous batter, and he absolutely has been. I think that he's still not getting quite enough love. Right now, he is on a career high 12-game hitting streak, which, he gets on base a lot.
he's
And
got a massive on base streak
he
too.
does 27 games. It's the second longest active streak, only behind Jose Ramirez, the very often underrated Cleveland Guardians third baseman.
Who I somehow always forget about, even though I know how good he is.
Yeah, don't
I'm just
forget
like,
about him on your
man,
All-Star
who can
ballot.
play a third base? Jose
Oh.
Ramirez, dude. Come on.
Oh yeah, that guy. During this hitting streak, he's batting .413, which is just great for him. One of only 6 players in the majors this season with multiple hit streaks of at least 10 games. Multiple hit streaks
How long has he been hitting 413?
since in just that 12-game hitting streak.
Okay, but still, that's pretty good.
It is. It's
Pretty
great.
good amount of time to be hitting 413.
Yeah.
And we were talking about Bobby's had a hitting streak, but it was 1 hit a game and singles. Vinny's multiple hits, hitting with power.
So
And walking, which is something Bobby has never done.
No, Bobby has not really been walking a whole
Bobby
lot
likes to
this year.
swing the bat.
He does. He really
And
does.
he, to his credit, kind of like Salvi a few years ago, he takes some pitches he absolutely should not swing at and does serious damage with them.
Yeah, he does. That's what happens when you're just one of the most talented baseball players on planet Earth. So, all that to say that I think it's fair for Royals to be frustrated and worried about this team right now. And I'm not going to say the next series or the next series after that is going to determine the team's future. But I think what the team does between now and, say, the All-Star break is really going to just show how the second half of the season goes.
We were having a discussion in the Royals Review Slack about what do the Royals need to do in the month of June to have it be considered a successful month. And I pointed out that the path to 90 wins says the Royals should be 14-10 this month if they want to get to 90 wins. They were a game down, so you would say they need to be 15-9 to be back on the path. I think 15-9 is asking a lot from them. But if they finished the month 13-11, over 500 and had their third straight winning month, with the Yankee series, I'm willing to take 12-12. Honestly. But if they finish the month 13-11, I'm not asking for them to be huge winners because I do think Bobby's gonna turn it around. And I think Vinny is a very good hitter and he's being a very good hitter. He may not be this hot, but if I look at his overall numbers for the season, I think he can maintain that.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit better than that for the rest of the year. But those numbers are still good. I think India can be an on-base machine. I think that Michael Garcia is in the middle of the breakout. I think the breakout is happening in front of our eyes, and I think it will continue. And I don't know what Salvi's going to do, but I think Jack's going to break out. And I think the pitching is legitimately good, though we are going to have to talk about Cole Ragans. We still haven't talked about him yet today.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the pieces are all there. And I think if they're, around 500, a little over 500 as the trades start picking up, and this is something that David Lesky kind of implied, is that the Royals are like, please, will someone trade with us? We would like to acquire a bat. No one's willing to trade yet.
Oh, yeah.
So the Royals are looking to add, it sounds like, we just got to be patient. We just got to tread water, keep your head above water, don't drown until you can get that life preserver of the trade acquired bat.
So,
and I swear, I really seriously doubt it's going to come in the form of trading Seth Lugo or Michael Lorenzen. I know that's everyone like, just do that trade. My favorite target remains Taylor Ward, who's been fantastic this year, has a career average of taking a lot of walks, hitting with a little bit of power. He's hitting with a lot of power this year, not taking quite as many walks, but that would work. The way the Royals have got their lineup set up, they could absolutely use that because the power has been a little bit lacking.
Yeah, it has.
And so that would work. But what are the Angels going to do with a rental starting pitcher if they trade Taylor Ward? Nothing. And we've talked about this a little bit too, but I just have to reiterate, it's going to be prospects, probably.
Yeah.
Probably, I would guess a Carter Jensen or someone on that level. Maybe a Blake Mitchell.
Maybe. I
would
kind of
go,
wouldn't
because
be
the catching
surprised.
catching prospect is where their depth is, so that's where it makes sense for the Royals to try and trade from, honestly.
So I do. So I want to talk a little bit about Matthew Lamar's piece today, but yeah, you're right. We do need to talk about Cole Ragans, who
I haven't
was
read it yet.
yeah. Go look it up real quick while I put out the five W's on Cole Ragans. So if y'all weren't aware, Cole Ragans, he had that really shaky start, and there was discussion about if the Royals rushed him back from injury, if he should have had another rehab start, yada yada yada. Unfortunately, it doesn't really matter because he is on the IL. He was placed on it June 11th, but it's retroactive to June 8th. So the earliest he can come back would be in late June. And the reason why he landed on there is a left rotator cuff strain. So it's not something in his lower body right now, it's in his throwing shoulder, which is just not a good spot to be at. And I get a little worried whenever I hear a player wants to go for a second opinion because it means that first opinion was not what they wanted to hear. And Annie Rogers reported that he is heading for a second opinion on the shoulder next week, which will, quote, help determine how long he'll be shut down from throwing.
Yeah, that was what they said on the broadcast, was not to worry about the thing that you're worried about, that it was just to determine, like, okay, can we find out, I want more clarification on how bad this is.
Right. And I'm sorry, like if that first guy said,
And
okay,
the
well,
Royals,
2 months,
I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying the Royals specifically addressed that. They could be blowing smoke.
they could be. They could be. And unfortunately I think they are, but I can't wait for it to be proven wrong. I'm not worried about the rotation because there are so many other strong options, and Kyle
And
Wright
Michael
seems
Lorenzen
close.
was fire that last start,
Yeah,
so
he
maybe
was great.
he's throwing it, and it was not just, oh, he's facing the White Sox. He changed his repertoire. He was throwing a lot fewer fastballs, which is his worst pitch, and a lot more of his changeup, which is his best pitch.
Yeah.
So it seemed to work. We'll see if it continues working. There's at least hope there.
Yeah, and we'll talk about next time we see Lorenz in here a little later on in the show. But yeah, Cole Ragans on the shelf. I would love to hear from y'all if you guys are worried about Cole Ragans being sidelined. Leave us a comment on Spotify, or you can reach out to us on social media. Our links are down in the podcast
Uh,
description below.
so I've been worried. I'm gonna respond to your
Yes,
question
please
right
do.
now. I've been worried about Cole Ragans because of repeated lower body issues. One lower body issue doesn't bother me, but it's been over and over and over again ever since the Royals got him.
Yeah.
Starting with cramps his first year with the Royals, cramps again last year, cramps earlier this year, strain, etc., etc. So I was a little worried about those, but I also felt like that's something that you can figure out, kind of like they did with Lorenzo Cain's leg issues. I got confused with Michael Lorenzen for a second there. I was like, who am I talking about? He had a lot of lower leg issues early in his career that they were able to figure out. Michael Massey hasn't had back issues. He's been able to work some of that stuff out. So those are the kinds of injuries I feel like you can eventually find a training regimen to address those. So I wasn't super concerned, but I was also like, can y'all figure this out already, please? But shoulder and arm injuries are always very scary. And of course, Cole Ragans has already had 2 Tommy John surgeries. Now, this is shoulder, not elbow, so this is not Tommy John territory. But rotator cuffs can be real big trouble for a pitcher as well.
Yeah, they
So
can.
it's very concerning. I will say that on the broadcast, they thought that they caught it very early. It was a mild strain. I've looked this up, and it confirms what they said, which was, kind of the minimum you would expect, even with a mild one, is 4 to 6 weeks. Worst case scenario would be a year, and you'd be wondering if he's coming back at the All-Star break next year. That would be I think that would be devastating for the Royals in a lot of ways, even though he's not been good this year. His ERA is up there and the rest of the rotation is fine. I really want him for the playoffs.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
4 to 6 weeks is kind of the minimum. And then you're looking at, I would think, 2 to 3 weeks of rehab after that. So we're talking 2 to 3 months before we can see Cole Ragans again in the best case scenario.
Yeah, it's
Now that
tough
does
spot.
mean late August. I would say in the best case scenario, you're looking at late August, early September. Maybe he's one of the guys that gets added to because you can add 2 guys in September. Maybe they just wait until they can add him then, and do things that way. But and I think that would be a best case scenario for the Royals in a lot of ways, because then he has a chance to kind of get ready, uh, uh, ramped back up in time for a playoff push if the Royals are still good enough to go to the playoffs. So that's what I'm hoping for. That's kind of what the Royals are indicating. I think we should be looking at right now. But he's going to get that second opinion.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how. And there's no guarantees, even if it is a mild one, that 4 to 6 weeks will be enough. There's a lot of question marks, but that's kind of the best case scenario that we're hoping for right now.
Yep. Thank you for putting that out there. One other thing that
and I'm not a physician, just to be clear.
Yeah, neither one of us are doctors.
Just Google research, baby.
Yes. And not
an educated guessing.
Yes. We have a lot of guesses here on the podcast. One thing that I want to put out there before I forget about it is this coming Sunday against the Athletics is another opportunity for folks in the KC Metro to watch the Royals, which I think is a great thing. They're doing the simulcasts on KCTV5 and KSMO. I don't know like channel numbers or anything like that for folks.
One of my favorite things, Jacob, is how you're like, go to the stadium, and you can't go to the stadium. Why are you telling everybody else to go to the stadium?
Yeah, because
but yeah, so yeah, those hopefully you in Kansas City know what those two things mean.
Yes, listen, and I'll give you a reason why. Because it is. I know if I was in Kansas City, I would. I don't want to say I would move heaven and earth, but like that would be one of the things. If I'm looking at my weekly schedule, I'd say like, what nights can I get out to the park for a game or something like that? And I do the same thing here. We have a collegiate wood bat team for the summer just down the road, and whenever I'm laying out my work for the week, it's like, okay, maybe I can get down there for a game on this day. But yeah, this Sunday's game against the Athletics, you can watch it on cable. It is going to be simulcast on FanDuel and those other two channels, so check it out. Speaking of the Athletics, Jeremy, are we ready to talk about the Athletics series, or do you want to talk about this Matthew Lamar article?
Let's talk about the Matthew Lamar article.
Okay.
I find it really interesting. I basically disagree with it in every form. I don't think red ass or fire or this is an argument I see from a lot of people, is that Matt Quatraro is too laid back.
Yeah.
He doesn't get worked up enough, and I just don't get it, y'all. I don't get it. When I can see being fired up maybe if your manager goes and yells at the umpire. And I've told this story because this is an argument we've been having for over a year now. I've told this story, but I'll tell it again for anybody who's not heard it before. When I was in Little League, we were in the Little League playoffs, and the team before us was slow getting off the field after their game, so we were a little bit delayed. So our coach went to ask the umpire for extra time for warm-ups as we were getting on the field for our warm-ups, and the umpire said, well, they're not moving with any speed, so I'm not giving you extra time. They're obviously not in any hurry, so I'm not giving you any extra time. And our coach went ballistic. He went nuts. I worry about my guys. You worry about everything. And he got thrown out before the game ever started. Before we were even really starting warmed up, he was thrown out of the game. And we all were like, yeah, we're all fired up now. We're ready to go. By the end of the first inning, that was gone. It's a very, very transient kind of being fired up sort of thing, which is something that can be effective in for a moment, such as when Mike Moustakas is trying to get guys fired up, but he's not yelling at people. He's just like, we're going to do this. We have it in us. That's a different kind of motivation also. We have it in us. And then you get fired up for the next plate appearances, and you pull it together and you win. And then it fades, but you already did what you needed to do with that.
Yeah.
So I don't get, like, yelling at the umpire is not going to get them fired up for 6 straight games or something.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. And the other way that you might see the manager get fired up is to start yelling at people and cursing them out for not winning, for not being good enough. If he goes and he yells at Hunter Renfroe, who's not here anymore, but he's safer. We'll pick him for now. Yeah. If he went and yelled at Hunter Renfroe earlier this year, would Hunter Renfroe have suddenly become a better hitter? Or would he have just been miserable? Yeah. Would everybody have been miserable? Because it's not fun to watch someone get yelled at either.
Mm-hmm. And
who benefits in that situation? And yeah, the Royals could go pick fights with other teams, but we've had Maikel Garcia picking fights with Jazz Chisholm. Has that worked out for the Royals? Or have they lost 8 straight games since they started doing that?
Yeah, it hasn't worked out in the Royals' favor. That's a good point. And I think that in today's baseball landscape, this remains a conversation because there's no way to quantify it, right? Yeah. And we talk a lot of numbers.
Don't have numbers for.
Yeah, and there's so many schools of thought on it, and I genuinely, I don't think that there is a wrong one until you get to the point of like, well, we shouldn't be yelling at an umpire for every single wrong ball and strike. But once it becomes a
I would do
pattern,
it.
I wouldn't.
If someone wants
I
to
wouldn't.
pay me, I would do it. I will yell at the umpire for every bad call.
Where I'm at is there has to be a difference between it being performative and it being genuine, right? Because it felt like on those 2015 on the 2015 team specifically, it felt genuine because this was for the most part the same 2014 squad coming back, and they were kind of, I don't want to say disrespected, but they weren't given the same, what's the word, levity as a pennant winning squad returning most of their players. They were viewed as the flash in the pan team from the Midwest, plucky underdogs, really getting it done. No, that team, and I think they showed a chip on their shoulder multiple times in that World Series winning season. Right now, I don't like, there's not a, I don't look in the dugout and see guys that are going to be genuinely mad at the drop of a hat, right? I don't know them personally, but what we do know of them, what we see of them, I don't see a whole lot of those guys. Like that's not who Bobby is. That's not who Salvi is. It's not who Freddie Fermin or Vinny Pasquantino. It's not who they are. They're just doing what they can.
Yeah, and one big point to all of that, and I think Matthew Lamar, I only very briefly skimmed the article because I'm also trying to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, sorry.
So I don't have time to just sit and really dig into it and think about it too hard. But I think he was talking about players specifically. I'm addressing managers.
Yeah.
And I just want to highlight, you know, who didn't have a chip on his shoulder in 2015? Ned Yost.
Yeah.
Ned Yost wasn't starting any of that stuff. Now, Ned Yost, did he sometimes get fiery with the umpire? Yeah, but that was because that's who Ned Yost was. Everybody's got to manage, play, do things the way that they do them. And I don't think that Bobby Witt Jr. should suddenly become a fiery guy if that's not who he is. Because again, like you were saying, that would be performative, not genuine. And so could the Royals maybe benefit from a Mike Moustakas kind of guy who for some reason keeps getting described as Ryan as this like angry guy?
Yeah.
I don't when we talk about the things that Mike Moustakas added to this team, we don't talk about him getting mad. We talk about him saying, "No, we're good enough. We can do this." Which is not a angry, I'm going to yell at you, you suck. This is a, no, we're actually good guys. Come on, believe in ourselves, which is a very different kind of attitude. I don't know why Ryan describes him. Watching the retirement ceremony, Ryan was describing him like he was just like he had anger management issues, and I'm like, if I was Mike, I would be very upset about all of this. This is very weird.
My moment.
So could the Royals use someone like that? Maybe, but they don't have someone like that. And the thing I have to say is that this is a team that doesn't give up on games.
Yeah.
Yes, they lose a lot of games, but it's not because they gave up. You can tell, I think, that these guys are trying. I see them making the effort. I see them running out the ground balls. I see them you've got us down, 1-0. We're gonna fight back. They just don't have the talent. I don't think any amount of quote unquote red ass is gonna make them more talented or make them try harder. I think they're already trying really hard. We've seen how competitive they are, how they don't get blown out by anyone but the damn Yankees. And I think that tells you that the issue isn't a clubhouse attitude or an on-field attitude or a managerial attitude. The problem is they simply don't have the talent. They have a bunch of fourth and fifth outfielders that they're asking to start every day.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, make sure if you want to go express your own opinion or read Matthew's, it's up on royalsreview.com. It's still on the front page right now as we're recording this. So go check it out. Like I said, there's a ton of different schools of thought on this, and I think it's really comes from things like upbringing, age, just where you grew up, things like that. So I love hearing different thoughts on it. All right, Jeremy, now are we ready to talk about some athletics?
We can try. I don't know. They've only announced one of their starters.
Yeah, Luis Severino, who was kind of their big off-season acquisition and
he's been fine.
Yeah,
but we don't even know who's pitching the next 2 days. I don't know anything about the Athletics. I got to be real honest with you. I have not followed the Athletics at all this year except Jacob Wilson. I know Jacob Wilson is the front runner for Rookie of the Year. The only guy who's really got a shot at it in the American League right now. We'll see if Jack Caglione and Roman Anthony have something to say about that by the end of the year. I don't know if you saw Roman Anthony did finally get called up by the Red Sox.
Yeah.
So we'll see if those two guys have anything to say about it by the end of the year, but it's basically a field of Jacob Wilson. He's been very good. They have a couple of guys I know who have been hitters in the past. I feel like their offense isn't good. I'll have to look that up to be sure. Their pitching they're just not a good team.
No, they're not.
But unfortunately, as we learned last week against the White Sox, that doesn't necessarily mean the Royals should have an easy time.
Unfortunately not. So looking at this Athletic squad right now, they're 26-44. They're well in the basement of the AL West right now. Jacob Wilson is, I want to call him their star. Like he's only 64 games in his MLB career, but he has 2.4 WAR already. He is great in the field. He is consistent.
I didn't even think he was supposed to be a good defender.
He's been good for him.
And he's got a hamstring injury. He's day to day right now too. Also, so he may not play this weekend. By the way, he's got a 162 WRC plus. He's 3.2 FWAR.
Yeah.
When you were reading the BWAR?
Yeah, I was reading the BWAR.
366 batting average, 402 OBP, 520 slug.
Yeah.
What on earth is this guy?
He is crazy right now. But hey, he's pretty damn fun to watch, I will say. The other guys, these that feel like just normal run-of-the-mill guys for the Athletics that you have to look out for. Brent Rooker, he signed that big extension with the Athletics this offseason. He's been doing his part at the plate. And
Lawrence
840,
Butler.
Yeah, Lawrence Butler. Tyler Soderstrom has also been a guy who has been, I don't want to say a surprise, but 23 years old and producing at the level he's doing pretty dang good.
And Shea Langoliers is their only other qualified hitter, and he's got a 102 WRC plus.
Yeah, not great. Denzel Clark, they're primarily plays center field. He's been the guy who's been all over the highlight reels this season for them.
Amazing defensive play, yeah.
Amazing. Like he'll have a lot of room to work there in Kauffman Stadium. So
holy cow, their offense actually looks pretty good.
It's their pitching.
Yeah, I thought their offense was not good, but they've got 8 guys with at least 100 plate appearances with a WRC plus of 100 or higher, including Nick Kurtz.
Yeah,
he was in that same draft class as Jack. Luis Urias, Miguel Andujar, Gio Urshela has not been good. JJ Bleday has not been good. Max Muncy hasn't been good. Different Max Muncy.
Not the Dodgers one.
The former Dodgers Max Muncy is he in Cincinnati or is he still with Los Angeles?
No, he's still with Los Angeles.
One of the Dodgers guys went to Cincinnati.
Oh, Lux. Are you thinking of Gavin Lux?
Gavin Lux. Yeah, I got them confused. Kind of like when Rex got Clayton Kershaw and Oral Hershiser confused. At least Gavin Lux and Max Muncy both played infield for the Dodgers at the same time, okay?
There's more of a concrete link between the two. Rex is just way out here.
They have a U sound in their last names. I feel like I could be forgiven.
I'm more easily forgivable to you than to Rex Hudler, who's just on a different.
And Clayton Kershaw, my goodness,
Rex is just on a different planet. Sometimes he's up there on the moon, just doing his own thing.
One of my favorite things about the broadcast last night was in the 8th inning when Bobby Witt Jr. grounded out to the pitcher, or was it the 9th inning? It was late in the game.
Yeah.
And he grounded out to the pitcher, and Rex is just like, Rex, he always just wants to highlight the positive as much as possible. And he's like, man, look at Bobby Witt Jr. run out that ball. He ran it all the way out. Like, this is where we're at, Rex is highlighting Bobby Witt Jr. ran out an awful weak ground ball, first pitch swinging at a not good pitch to swing at. But we're going to talk about him running it out.
Thanks, Rex.
That's where the Royals are right now.
Yeah, that's what it feels like right now.
Yeah, so they got hitting. I guess they have no pitching. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they have no pitching. Their best starters ERA is 4.77 from Luis Severino.
That's their best.
Sorry, excuse me. Their best is 4.64
from Jeffrey Springs.
Yep, from Jeffrey Springs. Their bullpen is not great either. Mason Miller, he's like, his ERA is really freaking high, but he doesn't get a whole lot of fielding support behind him. He's probably gonna be another all-star.
He's very kind of mediocre. Like, he's fine. He's not, kind of as we've talked about some of the Royals this year, he's not the problem.
Yeah.
But he's not helping.
No, he's not helping.
Noah Murdoch pitched for them for a little bit this year.
Yeah, that he did.
Not well.
Nope. And let's see here. They have 2 relievers with at least 10 games 10 appearances and an ERA below 4. Like their bullpen is just it's pretty bad.
Hogan Harris.
Yep. Hogan Harris, and I am seeing Mitch Spence.
Mitch Spence, yeah.
Yep.
Never heard of either of those guys.
Nope. I haven't either. So the pitching really seems to be their struggle this year.
Look at their starting pitching. So after Severino, they have Sears, JP Sears with a 5.08 ERA, Jeffrey Springs with a 4.64, Osvaldo Bido with a 5.98 has the 4th most starts, and Gunnar Hoagland with a 6.40 has the 5th most starts. And then they have a few guys with a handful of starts. Mitch Spence, actually, it looks like has gotten a couple starts. I wonder if they were trying to move him back to the rotation because he looked so good in the bullpen. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, go ahead and take a look at that. They use an opener every now and then.
He's been a starter. His last 2 starts, gone 5 innings.
Oh, wow. Good for him.
His last 2 appearances, 5 innings. He's allowed 1 run in 5 innings each, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, 6 hits. So he's been decent as a starter too, facing the Twins and the Angels. But he's no longer in their bullpen. He's in the rotation somewhere.
Gotcha. Like Jeremy said early on, everyone after Severino, so the starter for Saturday and Sunday, to be announced. We don't know what they're doing for sure. It's just kind of the situation that bad teams are in at this point in the season, right? Like we've seen some pretty bad Royals teams, and sometimes the pitching rotation is a week to week situation when it comes to injuries, underperformance, and yada yada yada.
Mitch Spence would be in line to start this weekend.
Okay.
He would start Sunday if he was pitching on regular rest.
Thank you. So
I'm trying to figure out who would start.
Saturday.
Tomorrow. Yeah, I'll see if I can figure that out real quick.
Okay, sounds good. I definitely think that this is going to be a fun series. I would say I'm not saying I'm an Athletics fan, but even after just that amazing wild card win or that wild card game between the Royals and the Athletics back in 2014, Springs would be in line.
Yeah,
gotcha. I've appreciated some of the players that the Athletics have had, even if the ownership and front office decisions are bad at best. I think that if Royals fans wanted to dream a little bit, maybe we could hey, could they trade for X person from the Athletics or that person? But I don't think that'll be going on.
Make the most sense if the Royals are going to trade with the Athletics. I guess the bad news there is the Royals are getting probably their 3 best starters this weekend if they pitch on schedule. They haven't announced it, so they may not pitch on schedule. But
maybe not.
Yeah, let's see. Lawrence Butler's not going to be the guy. Lawrence Butler, they just signed to a long-term contract. Same for Brent Rooker. Jacob Wilson is a no. Langoliers is a catcher, so that doesn't really make any sense. So
I said, dream on, guys.
Soderstrom or Schumann. I might make sense. Soderstrom is what position do you play? He's a first baseman.
Yeah,
that would be kind of iffy. He's also 23, so he's still very young and still in his rookie deals. So it'd be hard to pull him from them.
Yeah.
About Max Schumann, he's a 28-year-old third base shortstop. He's hitting league average though with a 105 WRC plus, and that would be the bet. He debuted last year at 85 WRC plus. He does take a lot of walks. He does not hit for power. So
Soderstrom he can also play left field. Yeah,
can he? All right.
Yeah,
well,
he's an above average left fielder.
But
according
again,
to
he's only 23. He feels like a guy they're probably going to want to build around, not a guy they're going to want to trade.
Like I said, dream on. I'm not saying I think that the Athletics are going to be sellers where they can, but they're more likely to be ones that just kind of batten down the hatches and make it to
I just want to dream about guys that I think the Royals might actually get.
Gotcha.
The other teams might give up. Taylor Ward, come on.
You are manifesting the hell out of that.
I've been begging for Taylor Ward for a year now, Jacob.
You have. And it seems like this is like a legitimate, the team is interested in Taylor Ward as well. So it just
feels like there's been so much smoke around Taylor Ward and he would be such a good fit for this team. And I don't know if you saw the Athletic has their power rankings and they always like to do a little gimmick with their power rankings.
No question.
And sorry, what was that?
The little question with it.
Yeah. So this time it was, what one player do we wish that each team would trade for? And Taylor Ward. Because everyone looks at them and says, why isn't Taylor Ward in Kansas City already?
This makes too much sense.
Just want to just throw out those numbers. He is hitting 204, 260. So that's not good, but a 471 slugging,
Oof.
because holy cow, he stopped walking, he stopped hitting for average, but the power is there, baby. He's got 18 home runs. I think that's more than any two Royals. That would be a huge addition. And then if the power goes away, you would maybe expect the walks to come back.
Hopefully.
So 730 OPS, which is in line with kind of where he's been. He's been ranged from 700 to 830 over the last 6 years, including this season. So, yeah.
So this is the beginning of the season series between the Royals and the Athletics. The Royals won the season series back in 2024. The Athletics won it back in 2023. Both of them with a 4-2 record over the other. Jeremy, after the Yankees series, I cannot say that I think the Royals are going to sweep this. I think that the Athletics will get one, but I think that the Royals will win this series overall.
At some point, Jacob, before this season is over, the Royals are going to have another hot streak.
They are.
Could start tonight. Not predicting it.
No.
I can't predict when it will start. I thought for sure it was starting after that Cardinal series. I was like, oh, there it is. The offense is here. The pitching is still here. The pitching wasn't even there for the Cardinals series because Lorenzen was awful and Ragans was awful, and they still took 2 out of 3, the 2 games where the pitching wasn't there.
Yeah.
And the pitching will be back the next series, and the offense is here, and the hot streak is here, baby. We're ready to go. And then absolutely not. They lost 5 of the next 6.
Right.
So hot streak will come back. If it starts tonight, the Royals will sweep. If it doesn't, it's going to be a struggle to take 2.
Yeah.
I think if this was a 4-game series, I would say it's a split. It's a 3-game series. I really can't just see the difference between taking 2 or losing 2 right now. If the Royals get swept by the Athletics, I know some people are giving up because they got swept by the Yankees. If the Royals get swept by the Athletics, we're going to have a real hard conversation about losing 8 out of 9. But Royals lost 8 of 9 in a different stretch earlier this year.
They did.
Some teams we thought were good and some teams we thought weren't so good. And they ended up being okay. So there's still so much time. This is the thing I have to keep telling myself. I have to keep telling everyone else. There is still so much time left in this season. We are not even halfway through yet.
You're right.
And the Royals through, I don't remember what stretch it was, but they had one of the better records they've ever had it was like 50 games or something through the first third of the season, I think.
Yes. Like through the first 40 games.
We can't throw the season away yet, y'all. I guess, so in the worst case scenario, I think the Royals have some really seriously good trade chips in Seth Lugo and Michael Lorenzen. If Hunter Harvey gets healthy, he's a seriously good trade chip. Urseg's not going anywhere. Mwaka's not going anywhere. Estevez is not going anywhere. India is not going anywhere. Anyone who can contribute to this team next year is not going anywhere, okay? I want to make that very clear because some people are like, well, trade India. No. Why would you trade a guy who can help you next season? Because if you trade him, you're trading him for someone you think can help next season. So the trade would make no sense. Now, if the Royals could get above value for Jonathan India, like 2 guys that can help next season, they should do that. But I don't know why any team would make that trade.
No.
That would be a stupid trade for another team to make.
It would.
But I also don't think the Royals will be selling. I think the Royals will be buying. Fingers crossed, Taylor Ward or someone very like Taylor Ward will be in Kansas City in a month or so.
I certainly hope so, Jeremy. I really do. And we will be talking a little bit more about the trade deadline in coming episodes, I'm sure.
The trade, we're starting to get to the season where the teams are starting to start talking about the trades. And I think the Royals are going to be at the forefront, like one of the early trades. I think we can expect the Royals to be.
They have been the past couple of seasons. The Aroldis Chapman
and they know they need the help.
Yeah.
They know what help they need, and they know they're motivated to go get it. So it's just a matter of convincing someone to work with them.
If you want to keep tabs on things that the Royals may or are doing, make sure you go check out royalsreview.com. Also check them out on social media. All right, Jeremy, let's go ahead and do our reviews and get on out of here.
You don't want to talk about the Missouri legislature passing funding?
No, because they still haven't I don't think the governor has signed it.
He has not yet signed it.
Yeah,
We
so
can talk about that Monday. It's a long episode already.
yeah, that it is. So, all right, you got what do you got for a review today, friend?
So, Jacob, when I was younger, when I was
A wee lad.
a wee lad in the late 90s, early 2000s, so not so wee, one of my favorite genres of movies was car action movies. Like Gone in 60 Seconds was the top for me. Action movies in general, but cars were really cool. I love technology. I think technology is super cool. If I can't get a science fiction action movie, then I will take an action movie with cars or planes or trains or something like that.
Yeah,
Planes, trains, or
I
automobiles.
was about to
That's
say
not an action movie.
that's a good movie.
So it would surprise anyone who knew young me to know that I had never seen the movie The Fast and the Furious, because that was exactly
Oh,
in my wheelhouse when it came out. And I saw a lot of movies back then. Somehow I never saw that until earlier this week.
hmm,
Finally took some time to watch that. And Jacob, I got to tell you, not a good movie. I
really?
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a huge nostalgia bomb for sure. That movie is very much a movie of its time in terms of music, in terms of shot composition, very much a movie of its time. And I enjoyed it, but also not a good movie. But if, like me, you have nostalgia for that sort of thing, for thieves and cars and action, you should watch it.
All right,
If you don't have nostalgia for those things, you should give it a pass. You're not gonna have fun.
this just straight up.
And I just have you've seen it, right, Jacob?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen it.
One thing that still blows my mind is I expected Dominic Toretto. I didn't expect him to get arrested. Also, I expected there to be a lot more references to family than there were. I guess those come later.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely going to have to watch more of this series. But I expected there to be more references to family, and I expected Dom to be like a street racing criminal, but also he was going to end up helping the police stop the real criminals, and that's why he wasn't going to go to jail. No, he was the thief all along. He was the baddest of the bad guys in the movie all along, and for absolutely no reason, our cop protagonist is just like, no, get out of here. Why? What did he do that makes you think he should go free? He did nothing. I don't get it.
I
I
don't either.
personally, he didn't physically harm anyone. All he ever did was steal. By the way, talking about nostalgia, he stole DVD players was the thing he was stealing, Jacob.
Yeah.
That's what they were stealing. The big ticket item that was going to make them all that money was stealing. The thing that
DVD
2 years later, they're literally handing out to anyone who will just take it. They're like, please, I do not want this in my warehouse anymore. Take this DVD player away from me.
How time flies.
They were stealing those Panasonic DVD players. Just wild.
It
That's
is.
nostalgia of such a movie of its time. Anyway,
It
go
is.
on.
I just got a quick review. Honey and I, we had to drive up to Maryland to go see some of her family yesterday, and she's been asking me to listen to this book that she's really into the series of. It's called Finley Donovan is Killing It. It's by Ellie Cosimano. It's a fiction book. It's a great. I really enjoyed the audiobook version of it. Basically, what it is, it's an overwhelmed mom who has a lot of stuff going on in her life. She's a struggling author, struggling to make ends meet, and it all starts off with she is having a discussion with her agent in like a Panera Bread, and the conversation is perfect because someone overhears it and thinks that Finley Donovan is a murder for hire person. And so this person hires
Like
her.
you do.
What did you say?
Like you do.
Yeah, it's one of those like, oh well, if I heard this conversation, I'd be a little questionable too, because it does sound like that. But anywho's, now they go through this whole shenanigans of like trying to clear her name and dealing with life and rebounding and things like that. It's really funny. I thought it was charming, I think is the word for it. It's not life changing, but it was an enjoyable book. So Finley Donovan is killing it. I would suggest going checking it out. That sounds like your jam.
All right. I might have to look into that one.
Go for it.
Someday after I get through all of the Fast and Furious movies and all of the I've been watching the Daredevil series because
Yeah.
I'm finally ready to watch the new one. And so I was like, I got to rewatch the old ones. I never even watched the last season of Daredevil.
Really?
So I absolutely have to rewatch the old ones because they were so good and they hold up I'll talk about them more later,
please.
but on a different review. But I've been rewatching them, and I got to the second season of Daredevil, and they're like referencing Luke Cage, and I'm like, oh dang, I gotta go watch Luke Cage. I gotta go watch Jessica Jones. I gotta go watch Iron Fist. Not Iron Fist, but otherwise I'm not gonna know what's going on. So I've got my TV schedule laid out for the rest of the year, probably.
Well, you sound like a busy man then, Jeremy. So we're gonna go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you all for listening to us. If you want to make sure you never miss another podcast episode, make sure you go and subscribe, follow, rate, review, whatever you do on your respective platform. Please make it happen. It helps support the podcast. But most importantly, go check out Royals Review. They are on the .com. They're on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, whole shebang at Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham. They're Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, go Royals.
Can you believe Panasonic still exists?